Hello there and welcome to Spring Framework Part 5 tutorial. And what we are going to learn today is something very different, which is Spring Web MVC. Right, and we'll be integrating many different things today with the newest software, that is STS available. Right, and what we are going to do, it's going to be a real fun, right? We'll be integrating Maven, we will be integrating all the dependencies and importing and installing all the dependencies, not using NetBeans, not using Eclipse, but yeah, a new tool, which is this STS tool. Spring Suite 3 is what we are using now. Right, so let's get started without wasting too much of time. And what is MVC? We know MVC is model, view, and controller. But here we'll be using an inbuilt, which is considered to be the world's biggest web application development, enterprise application development platform. Right. So let's get quickly started with Spring. And before I get started, let me tell you three different things what we are going to do today. We know that in servlets, what we do, the client request is sent to the servlet, and it is the servlet which decides, right? It is the web.xml file. Client request is sent to the container, and there it is handled by web.xml, and it's web.xml which decides the file that client has requested for. Here we are not going to use one controller but two controllers. Now we are going to intercept the request in web.xml. Whatever request, whatever URL client has requested for, we are going to intercept that, and then we are going to see if the request is relevant. We will be forwarding that request to the front controller. So we'll be using two controls. One is our own controller, which is business service, and we'll be using another controller, which is front controller, and in our language we call it dispatcher servlet. So now remember this, client request has to be intercepted and forwarded to the dispatcher servlet. And here what we are going to use, we will be using servlet tags in here, web.xml, which is our deployment descriptor, right? And number second thing, we will be configuring I just had some tongue twister. Right, so we will be configuring all the controllers which we have, right, in the front controller, or either we can make the reference of all the controllers in the front controller, which is dispatcher servlet, or we can dispatch the request from front controller to the controller using annotations. So these are two different things, right, that we have to achieve today. Let's start, and let me write the agenda for the day so that we see that we have achieved, or not the agenda, maybe we're going to create a checklist that we'll see at the end of the lecture whether we have achieved that or not. Number one, we will be starting with a new Maven project. Now what is Maven? It's collection of all the jars and we can say repositories, right? So that is much decorous or decorum to use repository. Right, so what is repository? It's a collection of different jars. For example, if I have to use let's say about file upload, so I require that file upload.jar, and similarly we require many different things, and we are not going to download each and everything at the same time. Alright, so we're not going to download it. What we say, we'll ask Maven, hey, to get me the list of all latest collections. Now we can still manage to download them one by one, but it's still not an option because we'll have to replace every single file right, for the time being, yeah, or even after a year of the project, or maybe we are developing new projects, we may have to update them regularly by us. Imagine we have 100 jars which we have used for our projects, or and checking them and checking their updates regularly is going to be a real we can say overhead for us. So that's why we use Maven. It's a single shop for all the repositories and all the collections, right? So we'll be starting a new Maven project. Number two, testing. Write a static hello world. So now we'll be testing. It's going to be our first Spring hello world application. Number three, we are going to go for POM, which stands for Project Object Model. So we are going to install all, right, and we can say we are going to install all repositories, right, using a single shop. And this is going to be a shop, right? Repositories in pom file, pom.xml file will call and install all the repositories or dependencies, right? I'll say slash. So we'll install them one by one using pom file. So this is what our agenda is going to be. And number 4, right? So we'll intercept the client request and forward, right? Forward all. So this slash means forward all requests. Sorry, forward all the requests to, right, to Spring framework, right? How do we do that? We do that using dispatcher servlet, right? Using web.xml, right, to dispatcher servlet. So now we are going to intercept all the client requests. Oh, I do lot of spelling mistake. All right. So we are going to intercept the client request and forward all the requests to spring.framework, Spring framework. Wow. Spring framework using web.xml to dispatcher server. So we'll be writing something in dispatcher in web.xml so that all the requests which are slash requests all are forwarded to our dispatcher servlet, right? So then configuring our own dispatcher servlet, right? And after configuring our dispatcher servlet, right, or we can say configuring our dispatcher servlet, or we can say importing and configuring dispatcher servlet, right, enable use of annotations. Number 8 is going to be, after we enable the use of annotations, then we are going to do something which is the point number 8, right? And we'll be making a controller to take all dynamic get requests, right? And number 9 is going to be, we will be testing, not testing is going to be number 10. I forgot. Making controller to take all dynamic requests, right? And number 9 is going to be, after we make that controller to take all the dynamic requests, so we are going to we can say that we are going to define views, right? So I'll give you a definition and you'll see that practically. Once you see that practically, you'll become more aware of that, right? And need not to worry about all 10 points. So we'll go through all 10 points starting from point number 1 to point number 2, to all the points. So point number 10, maybe we may have 11, so that's why I'm not sure about how many points we can have, right? And 9 and 10 is going to be, let's say about, it is going to be resolving views in, so it is going to be basically, I'll write only 9 points because the resolving views is going to happen in the dispatcher servlets with view resolvers, right? So this is it. So I'm not going to confuse you guys more. And now remember this forever. Now what are we going to do, right? Client makes request, the web.xml deployment descriptor will intercept and forward the request to dispatcher servlet. That means we should have controller ready, we should have our dispatcher servlet ready, web.xml, and the request can come from a JSP file or anywhere, right? And then accomplish all those points. So let's quickly start, right? And let's quickly start. Let me just minimize it. Okay, let me quickly start with the Maven project. So I'll say file, new, and I'll go with a Maven project, right? Can you see this here? All right. Okay, now you can create a new workspace location, means the physical location of your project where you want to keep the project. So I'll say use the default location. I'll say next. And you can see Maven archetype. Archetype means architecture type. What is the architecture type of your project? Is it a core Java project or it's a console based project? Core Java project you can go for quick start, but yeah, we are dealing architecture type web app. Alright, so that's why we are going to use Maven dependencies for architecture type web app. So I'll click on next. And group ID, now you want to create your group ID. It's going to be a globally unique identification for your project, right? So com.myInterface, because I've already created many projects using this Maven. Yours is going to be empty for the first time. And you can type whatever your project name is going to be. You can type the same name. For example, I am creating my interface. You can type something else. So my group ID is com.myInterface. You can type anything, right? You can type com dot let's say about my edu, right? So I'll say my interface. So it can be anything, and artifact ID is actually nothing but your project name. So I'll call this project as my interface. So the package name is going to be com.myInterface dot let's say about, it's going to be com.myInterface. Okay, let me keep it only com.myInterface, right? So this is artifact ID, this is the package name. So this is automatically this is a package that you want automatically created. You can create them separately as well. Now this thing is done. I repeat, this is the unique ID for your project, this is the name of the project, and this is the package inside the project. So I'll say finish. Now if you are doing it for the first time, you can see here the progress bar is going to take good amount of time, maybe 10-15 minutes before it is complete. But yeah, if it's already done, so yours is not going to take more than couple of minutes or maybe 10-20 seconds. And the first thing that you will notice after after creating a new project, you can see there are many errors. The error is basically in the web app index.jsp. Right, now you can clearly see the error here. If I open index.jsp, HTML is not understood. HTML is not understood by Java because it does not have any web server attached, right? Because it's a web application and we require a web server right at the back end to work for rendering our HTML requests and response to as that of dynamic requests and responses. And for that, as I said, and as you know, if you have watched the previous video, in case if you have jumped in directly, I reckon you going back and watching the previous video before moving into this video. Now because we require a web server right here, I'll right click and I'll go to properties, and there you can say targeted runtimes. Now you can hear targeted runtimes. What do you want to have the runtime? Do you want to use the JRE, Java runtime environment, or anything like that? But since it is a web application, so we'll click on Apache Tomcat. If in case you do not have Apache Tomcat installed, you'll click on new and you can search here Apache. Now you can see there are all the versions of Apache available. You can select any version. Next, and if it is already there, if you have downloaded and installed, select the directory, right, and finish. If it's not there, right, you can direct go and you can see the download and install. Since it's deactivated because I do not have the version, I have already installed it, right? So if you want to download and install, you can click this button. It's automatically going to download, configure and install it for you. But since in my case it's already installed, I will select the runtime environment as Apache Tomcat 9.0, apply and close. Now the moment you select, you can see all the errors are gone. So these are the errors, right, because these are HTML rendering errors. So this is the first thing that you are done. Right, and now what I want each and every request. No, let's go through the checklist. Right, create a new Maven project, right, and collect all the jars and repositories. Okay, we have to collect all the jars and repositories. So now this is my first duty right here. So let me, at least when the going gets tough, the tough get going. We'll have to check all the points, 1, 2, right? So we'll try and move as fast, not that fast, so that you don't understand what is happening at the back end, right? You need to understand the happenings right? And for that you need to be patient, right? And patience is basically the key here, right? And let's go and install all the repositories. And having said that, I've already told you about pom file, right? That is what? Project object model. So this is the file that takes all. Now I go to this source, right? You can directly see when I open my interface, this is the project name, and there you can find pom.xml, right? And it has already, this is the information of the project, right? So this is all information of your project, right? And this is dependencies tag, and within this dependency tag you can have as many dependencies as you want. I repeat, as many dependencies as you want. Is that clear? All right. So now what do you want here? Now you can see if I go to Maven dependency, there's only one dependency installed, or a jar file. You can say there are many things inside a jar file, right? Style sheet is there, everything is there. But this is the library or the jar file only for unit testing. So that's why we imported. If I delete this one dependency here, you can see it's gone from here. You can say Maven dependency is completely gone. We don't have even a single dependency. The moment I get it, right, even if it's not available, it's yet going to go out to internet, right? It'll go out to internet and download and install. Now you have Maven dependencies right here. So let me collect the list of dependencies that we may require, right? So you can collect the list manually and install them one by one. So that's why we call this as project object model, which is POM, right? So didn't I say it's project object model? All right, so what makes it project object model? Because this is where Maven is very helpful. That's the only reason we require Maven. You write the dependency name, it's automatically included in the project and installed. And now tomorrow, in case if you are getting an update of this project, right? So let me take a look at the time first. Well, we have some good amount of time left, right? So let's get started. So the first thing that you have to remember always, I'll keep them, right, in order. You want the list of the dependencies, they'll be available down in the description section. You can go in the description section and you can find it in the first comment also, and download all the dependencies right now. But I'll show you, if you want to download dependencies, what you can try and do, there's a website known as mvnrepository.com. I repeat, mvnrepository.com. You can go and search for anything, right? So you require pom dependencies, right? You can go and search for pom dependencies and you can find all the dependencies for pom, right? For example, you want a repository for Spring Web, so you can find it directly. All right, now there is a Spring Web dependency. You click here and all the versions of Spring Web are available. Now it's also possible that it is right, it's just like jQuery files that you download, so you don't need to remember them. You have to just download all the repository latest releases. Now you can see that I have downloaded it, right? I can go ahead and copy within the dependencies tag. Let me have them here. So this is dependencies tag, and here I'm going to download another dependency. So I'll just delete this core URL here. So I don't require this URL. I don't know why does this console come out again and again, right? So the moment I save, and you can see the progress that it has started downloading it, right? And because mine is already downloaded, yours is going to take good time and yours is going to get going. Now if I go to Maven Depend, now you can see that all the releases have been downloaded here. Or what you can do if you want to download the latest version, for example, in my case, Spring latest version is, go outside the dependencies tag and make a property, right? Make a property, right? So I go to properties tag and I can make a property known as Spring. Let's call this as spring.ver, S-I-O-N-V-E-R. So I'll call this as spring.version, spring.version. I want to use the latest release 4.0.1. So I said I want to use 4.0.1 Spring version. Right, so you are defining it. Now you don't have to type it again and again here in the repositories. For example, now you want to get any release, what you have to type, okay, let me just keep it like this. Okay, you have to type the target, right, which is this properties, right? Because I already mentioned 4.0.1. You can even type release everywhere, but yeah, if you can once type it and then use it. Now how do you use this property? By calling dollar tag, and now what I do here, I call the spring dot version everywhere, right? So dollar and then spring dot version, so it's going to automatically tag it. Now you can see it'll start downloading it, building the workspace, and wait unless it's all downloaded, right? So the moment it is downloaded, you can go to your Maven no, it's still an error. VERSI. What is the error? SPRIVERSION 4.0.1. Yeah, that's absolutely right. So I'll have to use this here, spring. Okay, so this is the dependency, and I have to use it like this, spring dot version. Well, let me see the error first. Missing artifact org.springframework.web.jar 4.0.1. So it does not have any artifact perhaps available. That's what it's saying. I don't know. All right, so I'll go and check again. Okay, maybe we have done something wrong. SPRING spring dot VERSION. Right, so the spelling is right. We don't have any spelling mistake here. So let me save it again. Okay, it started downloading now. Maybe you should have an active internet connection while downloading these dependencies, right? So in case if they are not downloadable, you are going to get a clear error. All right, so let me call this now. The first thing that I'm going to download is Spring, which is Spring Core. So first you download Spring Core. All right, so the first thing that I am going to download is Spring Core from org.spring-framework. Right, so it is going to take group ID, artifact ID, and version. Version is coming from here, or I can mention it manually. I don't know. pom.xml has an error. All right, so let me have them. Okay, let me have the version. What version did I use here? Okay, let me copy them from here first and see what is happening here. Okay, I have copied this from repository. Now it's working fine here, right? But now if I go for my property right here, right, you can see this here. Okay, it's absolutely right. I don't have anything wrong in here. JUnit is already there. Alright, and we are using Spring version, right, as a property, so that's not a problem. Properties. Okay, I did not type release. Oh my god, I have to type RELEASE. Now it's going to be 4.0.1 release, right? Like we have typed release here, so we're typing it once. Now this is just to reuse it. It's just like a string. You're reusing it. For example, if I try string name in Java, I'm reusing that. So that's what I'm trying to do. And this is also fine. And here I can say dollar now. All right, I can directly say dollar, and I can call spring dot version, which I have defined here. Right, which I have just defined here, spring dot version as a property. I define just a variable, right? It's nothing, just defining a variable and reusing it again and again. So now if I save it, now you can see that repositories have come. You can see that they have started coming. So now I did it for spring.web. Second dependency I'll do for, so now it's going to be the second dependency that I'll be using for, let me just keep it inside dependencies tag. Right, because all the dependencies are going to be inside a dependencies tag. All right, and now the second thing, that first I have used spring.web. Now first is spring.web, and then I have used spring.core, and the third that we shall be using is actually let me just document it. Okay, 3 dependencies only that we are intending to use. One is spring.core, another is spring web, and third is spring web MVC, right? Because we want to get spring web MVC. Save them, right? And the moment you save them, you can see all the repositories coming from this side without any error, right? So this thing is done. I repeat, now this is the magic of Maven. all the repositories. You mention it in the tag. If you have inside your computer, it's going to include them. If it's not, it's going to automatically download them. And you change the version from here, all the latest version is automatically going to be replaced. So that's why we use Maven. So that's why that's the magic of Maven. That's why I say that we got to use this Maven, right? And we should be pretty much concerned, and we should be used to now using Maven, right? And this dependency is just for unit testing. We may not require it, but yeah, it's not bad to have it because we have installed it. This is just for unit testing, so we are not going to use these dependencies. We're going to use only 3 dependencies right here, which are these 3: Spring Core and Spring Web and Spring WEB MVC. And this is what we are interested in. So let me go to the checklist. Yeah, now we can say when the going gets tough, the tough get going. I'm going to just cross it. The first thing has been achieved. So I'll use maybe black cross. Maybe I'll use a bigger one, red. So first thing, now how? I said red. What happened to you? Right, so I'll just underline it that this thing has been achieved, right? All right, test a static hello world application, so that is also achieved as a pro, just like that. Now if you open source and go to main and go to web app, and there is index.jsp, it already has hello world. Now let me test it using server. I'll say run. You can find it here, Tomcat already selected. Just click always use this server while running this project. So it's not going to ask again and again. So I'll say finish. And now it's going to restart my server. I'll say okay. Alright, so it goes out every time. I don't know. Maybe. Let me keep it lock here. Okay, fine. Now hello world has been tested. You can see you have been able to test it successfully using the internal browser. Yeah, if you want to test it outside externally, you can go and test it here also, so that's not a problem. Hello world. This is your first Spring application. Has point number 2 been completed? Yeah, absolutely. Testing a static hello world example. Install all the repositories dependencies using we can say pop. What is pop? It's pom, project object model. And I say pop, I'm a pop star, right? What is pop? My god, how can I be so wrong? It is project object manager pom, which we just used to install repositories, right? And you'll be surprised to see that we are completing it like pro now. Now intercept the client request and forward the request to Spring Framework. So this is what we have to now do. Right, client requests have to be intercepted and sent to the dispatcher servlet. For example, if I type something like this, for example, if I type add, or if I type sum, now you can see status 404. Now I want this request to be redirected to my dispatcher servlet. So for that, I'll go to my web-inf4 folder. You can see web-inf is here, web.xml is here. I'll expand web.xml. You're aware of servlet tags, so I don't have to define them. So I'll go with servlet, and servlet tag has 2 things. If you know them, one is a servlet name. So let me name this as front controller, right? So this is now the name of this is also going to be the name for the dispatcher servlet. You'll come to know that. And it is going to have servlet class, and the class is, if I'm not wrong, it is dispatcher servlet. I'll write org dot Spring Framework dot org dot Spring Framework dot web dot servlet dot dispatcher servlet. So now basically this is case sensitive here. Last dispatcher servlet, D is capital, S everything else is small till org. From org to servlet everything is small. D and S of dispatcher servlet is right. So now you have to call this front controller. Now I'll go simple, it's very simple. I'll go to URL mapping. So I will say I want to do what you call that as mapping, which is servlet mapping. So I'll say servlet mapping, right? What do you want to map? I want to map this front controller, right? When do you want to map this? when anyone types anything, right? So now slash means any URL after the slash, after first slash, right? So any URL after first slash is going to be redirected to front controller. The moment I do this, if I go back to my file now, if I type add, earlier we used to get, I'll show you, 404 not found. Now we should get error. We should be able to get, what do you call that as, we should be able to get an exception right here. So if I say add, you can say still 404, okay, because it's an XML change. So XML change often requires you to restart it. Now I'll restart. Alright, so now it's launching 57%. Something wrong with my Tomcat, so let me close it down. Go back to index.jsp, rerun it, restart server. Yes, I need to restart the server. Keep it here. This is console. Alright, now Tomcat server has started. Now if I just delete this index and say sum again, right, now we are getting 500 internal server error. Why? Let us go back to the checklist. Let me check it out. Intercept all the requests, right, and forward them to Spring using, we are forwarding everything to dispatcher servlet using web.xml. Is that true? Yeah, this is also achieved. So point number four is also achieved. Import configurations, right, for our own importing, configuring our own dispatcher servlet. Now let us see the error right here. What does it say? Right, it says something right here. So you can see that instancing of a dispatcher servlet is not possible. Right, why isn't this possible? Right, if I go to browser, because we have not achieved, okay, we still get 404. Why? If I say sum, I don't know why we're getting 404 here and something else here. Yeah, we're still getting 404. I don't know why are we getting 404. Okay, maybe the servlet has responded. Let me see the console here. Yeah, because exception is already raised. It has stopped working, right? You can see the exception here. Right. So anyways, we don't want it. So what do you want? You want now to configure your own dispatcher servlet. Now what we have done so far, client has requested, we have intercepted the request, we have forwarded the request to dispatcher servlet, but there is no dispatcher servlet. Alright, so we haven't created the dispatcher servlet. So let me quickly go and create a dispatcher servlet. Right, now what do you want the name of dispatcher servlet to be? Right, now in order to create a dispatcher servlet, what you need to understand is that your dispatcher servlet will have the same name, but you have to suffix. For example, it is front controller, it should have the same name as it is here, but you can suffix dash, right, servlet. Now this is how you create, right, whatever name you have given to your dispatcher servlet here will be the name of the dispatcher servlet, but you have to suffix it with dash servlet, right? So this is what the name is going to be. So I'll go to my web.inf file and create a new XML file, and let me search for XML here. Right, so I repeat, I'll go here, right click the inf web.inf folder and go for a new other, because we don't have XML file here. So I'll click on XML. Now you can see XML file is here. I'll say next. What do you want to name it? You know that, right? Front controller dash servlet. Why? Because this is the name of my dispatcher servlet. So now this is here. Now it may require some schemas, it may require some dependencies, right? And schemas, more importantly schemas, not dependencies, schemas that we can import. I just imported from here, so I can copy them just like this, right, within a beans tag. So I'll just open a beans tag, and what I'll do, I will just open a beans tag and close down my beans tag right here. So this is what I wanted and this is what I got, right? So this is what you can get from internet. What you have to say, dispatcher servlet schema download. You can Google dispatcher servlet schema download, but in my case you don't have to. I'll keep 2 text files ready for you. Alright, dispatcher servlet tag you can write yourself. I'll keep all 3 dependencies that we have to import ready, and I'll keep this XML file also down in the description section as a text file. You can download it and start using it right from the word go. Alright, so now what I want here Right, so this is done. So let me see. Now we should not be able to get this error. We should be able to get 404, not an exception. Right, so let's see now. Restart the server. Okay, now this is also achieved. Point number 6 achieved. Right, so imported and configured because we use that. Now enable use of annotations of right, before I enable the use of annotations, I'll just go to sum. Right, we still have an exception right here, and let me take a look at the exception. What does it say? Right, and for that I will have to go to my right, so let me go ahead and check what the exception. Class not found exception. So which is the exception? Dispatcher servlet, right? So class not found exception, right? Server. We cannot allocate space for front controller. That's absolutely right. So let me have it. Let me go back. Are we okay? Sorry. Are we dispatching all the requests to front controller? Yes. Is my front controller a dispatcher servlet? That is org.spring. There's a mistake. Framework has a spelling mistake right here. You can see. Do you see this? FRAMEWORK. So it is org.spring framework. Because I don't see my keyboard while typing. I have this bad habit, right? I don't know. So let me restart and check again. Should be getting error 404 now. Right, so let me go ahead and see what do we get. Right, so now this is here. If I type anything, what do we get now? We are getting 404, right? And yeah, absolutely right. Now we should be able to get, yeah, no mapping found for HTTP request. Now, you have to map it. Imagine that we used to have servlet and we used to have do get and do post, or we used to take get request and solve. And here in Spring, we can use our own POJOs, and we can make sure that those POJO classes are used as controllers. Right, I'll show you that, but yeah, for that I'll first go and enable use of annotations, because I will be enabling use of annotation rather than defining everything in my dispatcher servlet, right? So I'll just close it and close it too and close it too. If you want to run it over browser, what you can do, if you don't want to run it here, I'll go to here, window, web browser, internal web browser, or you can choose a default web browser. So I'll choose default web browsers, right? So now we'll be taking a look at it at external browser, right? So let me quickly go. Now you can see here we have source, and then we have folder main here, and then we have app. Let's go to main. It's very important, right? Very, very important, right? And you have to create a folder and call it Java, right? Inside main, source main, you have to create a folder known as Java, right? And the moment you have created this folder, right click and say a new class. I'll make a new class and I'll call this as sum controller. So this is the name now, sum controller. You can name it anything, and the package is going to be com.myInterface. I'll say finish. Right, so now I don't want, because you've seen previously we used component based classes. This is the same component that we will be using, and I don't have to define it. I don't want to define it in the dispatcher servlet. I want to use it as a controller. To use it as a controller, I'll just define a controller annotation. Now you can see CONTROLLER. So I defined a controller annotation. Now this class is going to be used as a controller, and this is what you are using: Spring Framework stereotype.controller. Where are you getting from? Maven repositories, right? If I delete Maven repositories, you'll say what this controller is. It's not understood, right? So now the second thing, I'll create a function known as public void. Let's say about add. We have this function add. It is going to add 2 numbers or something. So I'll do a system.out.println. Right, add is called. Now you can see I want this add to be called from the browser, right? And now what are we typing? We're typing sum, right? Let's say we are typing add instead of sum, right? So let's say we're typing add instead of sum, so something like that. Okay. All right, now what are we going to do now? I'll use request mapping here. I want to request, whenever client requests for slash let's say about add. Now whenever client is requesting for this add, you print add is called. So I'll save this, and it's still not going to work, right? Because you're using annotations now. You're not defining anything in the front controller right here. So for that, what you do, enable annotations. So I will say context annotation configuration. Now what I have done, I have used the tag and it has enabled the annotation based configuration in my Spring Web MVC project. So let me run it first and see. Still we are expecting to get one exception. I'll tell you about that later on. Mapping exception. So yeah, we have to test our project slowly and gradually every time. Instead of getting 200 errors, now you can see we are using external browser here. Now if I type add, right, so I typed add, you're getting 404. And why? No mapping found. So I understand it completely that I haven't defined any mapping in the front controller. Now what I do in the front controller, I have to define my directory first, right? Let me say I have to define a directory right here, and that is going to be my view resolver, right? So this is what I'm going to define. So I will define a bean tag here. This is you do it once before creating the project, right? And then you create, then everything will fall under place, right? And now I will use this bean tag, and I will say bean class is equivalent to, so let me use org dot spring FRAM spring. So let me keep it. I had already kept it here. Now it's here, org.spring internal view resolver. So I'll keep it downloadable for you. You can download it directly. Now you can see org.spring framework web servlet view internal resource view resolver. So this is what we are going to use, view.internal. Now what is this going to do? I will make, I'll tell him that I have views, because it is model, views and controllers. Model you are not going to know. You know that model is going to be something that exchanges, that's going to be either a DAO or a complete model. But what is controller? Controller we already defined, right? And now where is view? It's the complete view structure. It's not MVC pattern, it's framework. Now see the magic here. I'll right click the web.inf folder, and I will say I want another folder in here, and I want to name it VIEWS. So this is views. Now I have views folder inside web.inf. Now who knows? You know. Spring doesn't know you have views here. So I will say what you got to do is, right, hey, I call hey Spring. Now what you got to do is, right, so you got to name a property. So I am calling this property, and I call this as prefix, right? And this is the prefix, and this property has a value, right? What is the prefix? Prefix is going to be the value of the directory. So I will say, hey property, take the value. Now what is the value? I'll say inside web-inf, there is my views directory. So this is here, VIEWS. Now go and find my views directory in web.inf, right? Is that the only thing that you have to do? No. Just add slash at the end also, right? I need another property. Now what is your name? Suffix, right? What is this suffix required for? It is required for the proper extensions, right? So I'll say value. It is required for the proper extensions of the files that you're carrying. So all the files which will be inside views are going to be of extension.jsp, right? I say all the files in here are going to be of JSP extension. Isn't that simple, or is that more complicated for you? Right, so I'll save this, and I don't know why we're getting this error right here, because everything is under place. So why are we getting this? The word JSP is not correctly spelled, so I don't want to spell it. It's a grammatical mistake. Alright, so now since I have done it, now let me run the project and see the difference. Right, so I'll go back, run the project and see the difference. I'll rerun it, go to index and restart the server. I don't know why is it unplaced. I place it here, it goes there. Right, so now you can say I have to call add. The moment I call add, right, you can clearly see no mapping found for this. So let me clear. Now let me clear it again. Call add. Sorry, you're getting again no mapping found. That's absolutely all right. So we don't have any problem for that, right? So now since everything has started falling at place and everything is working fine, so I don't mind going to my front controller and saying, hey front controller, right, you mind if you use okay, so we use suffix, so let me see, prefix web inf views, absolutely right. And we don't have anything in the views. For example, I create a new file, let's call this as JSP. Alright, so I'll create a new JSP file and call it welcome, welcome, welcome. Alright, so now what I will do in the front controller, so this is the sum controller. Now whenever you type /add, now what is going to happen? Now see this, right? Your request will go to the web.xml file, and web.xml time will take the request, forward it to the dispatcher servlet, right? You'll go to the dispatcher servlet and you'll say, hey, I'm using annotations, right? And then this annotation is already there. The controller is taken as /add. So why are we having this wrong slash? No, this is the right slash. Why are we having this wrong slash? It is the right slash. Right, so this is something that we are expecting to happen right here. But yeah, this function is void. You mind if I make it string and I say return, right? Return me welcome. Now I'll tell you what is happening when I return welcome. And before that, let me rerun this project again. Restart. Okay. Alright, so let me dock it back. It's undocked every time. I don't know. Okay, now what is expected? You have to type add, and you're still getting 404. My god, what is wrong? No mapping found for HTTP request with URL my interface /add. Yeah, and this is because what you have done, you have not defined your base directory. Now you have to define it. Go back to the previous class. Do you remember that we defined the base class directory before setting the context, or before setting the component? We used component annotation, but before that, do you remember what we did? Yes, we used this context, right? So we use context. We have done, this is done for the first time and the final time. So I will say context component scan. Whenever you have to scan for components, right? What is component? The controllers that you have to define actually here. That's old school, new school, is that you use annotations, but you have to name a base package. You'll say, oh hey, find, go and search for all the components, right? And where do I search for them? Go and search all the components in this base package. And what is the package name? com.myInterface. And now you can see com.myInterface, right? I've shown you with error so that you know what is happening, right? So now go and find all the components, right? Once you goes to some controller and you have typed /add is found, welcome add is called as print, and you are getting return welcome. You didn't type welcome.jsp, you typed only welcome. Why did I type only welcome? Because my front controller already has that every .jsp, it's going to suffix. Now you can say you have returned, your sum controller is returning only welcome, and front controller is already suffixing it with JSP, and the directory is already prefixed with this. So now it's going to search welcome in views automatically. So let me see whether the same thing happens or something else happens. Is there an XML change? Yeah, there was an XML change, so that I have to restart it. Okay, restart. Undocked again. I don't know. I have no idea about this. It goes off place again and again, right? So let me stop. At times it creates problem. Let me stop it. 1, 2, 3, 4. So let me stop it and let me restart it for you again. All right. So let me go ahead and restart it. And if I type now add, right, so let me see whether I get this. Still getting no mapping found, so we have not been able to restart it properly. Okay, let me see com.myInterface. Com.myInterface is I capital here. Yeah, I is I suppose capital here. I don't know. So let me use internal browser here just so that we can check it. Alright. I'll go to window, web browser, internal web browser, so I'll test it. So testing becomes a bit easy then. Alright, so you have to remember it's case sensitive. The package is I capital. The I of my package is I suppose capital here. That's why it's creating problems. But yeah, now you can go back to main servlet. Right, and you can say, now you can say I need to maybe add two numbers. So you say /add, right, and it returns hello world. Now everything is worked fine, and we are getting add is called. Now even if I go from this side, you can see add is called, and you're getting welcome, right? So you can see add is called, right? So this is the magic of Spring. So let me say about let me take a look at timings. Timings 51. We already crossed. Let me go ahead and complete this today. All right. So I'll go to welcome, and what I do here, I'll not do much today. I'll just finish it up with this. So I'll create a normal form. So I'll say form action is equal to add. Now the form is going to add. So method I will be using get, right, and I'll say, right, enter num1. So I'll use input type, right, text, and I'll say name is equal to txt. So I'll say txt num. Okay, let's call this txt num1 and try and close and br. Right, so I'll try and wind it up closely because 2 and 3, and what is 3? Third is going to be input type submit, as you know, and it's going to be calculate, right, and input type submit. Instead of name, we'll have value is equal to calculate, and clear this and go back to my sum controller and say there, hey there, you wait a second, I need to grab it. Now you need to grab it here, right? Now while I do right here, I'll go ahead and type add first. Now see whether it's called. Yeah, it is called. Okay, and now see what is happening right here. Let me again go back to my web browser. I'll use the internal browser, or no, let me use the default browser of my PC. Right, and I'll go to index.jsp and I'll say, hey, I need to rerun it. So this is my index.jsp. I go to calculate, right, and I pass these parameters to my calculate function, and it returns something back, which is this. Inside views, we have this welcome.jsp, right, you can see this here. So I'll say h1 welcome. So now I'll show you in the next video how to add those two numbers. But yeah, you're getting here welcome. Now you can see, and it is going through, and the operation, you don't know how bigger the operation was, right? If this is successful, believe me, 50% of your Spring is done. And 50% is going to be fun. It's only repository, getting repositories. Initially you may find it very difficult, but you're learning the world's end. You know, you're learning the world's biggest platform. This is Spring, and then we have Spring Boot is there, then we have RESTful services, and this is supposed to be the end, and this is where employers pay you huge, right? Spring is the world's highest paid MVC platform and the world's highest used MVC platform by corporates like Infosys. All the banking softwares you can see is developed using the same platform. So every single thing before you is Java, and this is the end of Java. Right, and you have to consider this more important than anything else, just to finish and add up, you know, if your Java knowledge, if you already have knowledge of Java, so that is cake. What you need to do, you need to place, just go and place one cherry on top of that cake, right? And now let me tell you what is happening. Again, for the final time before I wind it out, you request your index.requested for index page requested for add request went to web.xml. It was sent to dispatcher servlet, right, which is configured as front controller, and he said my base directories is com.interface, go and check for that. And we went inside com.interface directory and found the mappings for add, that's what we were requesting for, /add, right, and found this system right here. So this is now what we have to do, everything here. But you can see here we return welcome back to this function, right, and we saw that once we call for add, we will be getting welcome. Why? And you can see the URL is still add. Why? Because you're returning welcome. Why welcome? Why not welcome.jsp? Because you already used something in here in the front controller, which is prefix, that you go and check for JSP directories in views welcome, you can see, and the prefix, I typed only welcome, and suffix is already JSP, it's going to be already attached here. So this knows if you type welcome, it's actually, it will go and search the views directory. Whenever we type return anything, go and search views directory and suffix automatically .jsp and searches and give you the results as well. Go and do configure it. I will be attaching two text files. One is pom, another is this front controller, and remember the name of the front controller has to be suffixed with dash servlet, and it should match with the dispatcher servlet name right here. I wish you all the best. We are just getting started, and moving towards a very nice way, right, and very nice thing too, right? So I wish you all the best. Do pray for me and remember me in your prayers, and do practice a lot, maybe twice. So go through the video twice, thrice, 4 times, so that you understand it, right? If you have understood this part, you'll be able to understand each and everything like a pro. I wish you all the best. Bye bye. Take care.